So in my section, I will briefly focus on describing the detention system in Northeastern Syria, the situation of detained men, women, and children, the role of the Kurdish administration, as well as the broader geopolitical context in Syria following the fall of Bashar al-Assad regime. Regarding the presentation, Marco, if you could have 30 seconds per one photo would be great. So. Thank you very much. Yes, about me, shortly, I'm a reporter and academic specializing in terrorism and radicalization. My research and fieldwork in Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon focus on post-conflict rehabilitation, detention governance, and local de-radicalization initiatives. I'm currently writing a book on this subject and pursuing a PhD at Masaryk University. And yes, I'm in the field of Syria, especially in northeastern part, 3 to 4 times a year. So last time I came back, it was 2 weeks ago, so in the beginning of November. So yeah, let's start with the main question, detention system in Anes. So in the northeastern region of Syria, as Sofia already mentioned, there is a network of more than 27 detention facilities holding approximately 40,000 women and children and around 9,000 men. According to estimates by local authorities or ANES, there are between 600 and 800 Europeans among them, although the exact number is not known even to the authorities themselves. So far, I have conducted 30 in-depth qualitative interviews with detainees in these facilities, most of whom were of European origin. Half of the interviews were men, the other half were women. So I would start with the detention of men because it was also mentioned in our policy paper. So as you can see, I also brought some of the pictures. This is from Al Sina, which is the biggest prison based in Hasaka. Detained men are in the worst condition. Many of those I met were visibly malnourished. This appears to be the result of, let's be honest, of crowd control tactics, particularly during periods of Kurdish security staff shortages. Many of the detainees, particularly the third country nationals, are held in already mentioned Al Sina prison in Hasaka city, which houses approximately 4,500 men. According to the prison warden, around 3,500 of them were diagnosed with tuberculosis as of January 2025. List of detainees who have died in the custody are available and are regularly shared by the prison administration with the coalition. The last time I visited the prison, it was in January 2025, because the real interview, the long interview you always do in a different facility, it's like a military compound where you have time circa 1 hour till 1 or 2 hours to talk really to one detainee, which is actually not enough, to be honest. But I had this access to Al Sina in January. As you can see, there is like 25 people in one cell. And yeah, the facility provides healthcare and has a dedicated medical ward inside the prison. According to local authorities, the medical services are considered adequate for around 70% of detainees. During my visit in Al Sina, I engaged directly with the detainees. Many appeared underweight, hygiene conditions were poor, and the cells had, a strong odor. Detention of women and children. The majority of detained women in northeastern Syria are held in 2 main detention camps. They're quite known already, Al-Hol and Rosh. So I will start with Al-Hol. The current number of detainees is approximately 36,000 to 40,000, with the most frequently cited figure for 2025 being around 38,000. Rosh, the camp holds approximately 2,500 people according to the latest available estimates. Living conditions in Al-Hol are significantly worse than in Rosh. However, both camps have adequate access to food and water, with the exception of high security zones, also called as the Annex, where services are more limited. Regarding the healthcare, in both Al-Hol and Rosh is provided by international and local humanitarian NGOs, and access to healthcare remains limited and often inadequate, particularly for children and women living in more restricted areas of the camps. Repatriations over the past 6 years, almost 7 years already, since the fall of Baghuz, several European countries have repatriated women and children from detention camps in Nes, as Sofia already mentioned, but no country has so far expressed willingness to repatriate detained men. The Kurdish authorities have indicated they would be open to repatriating men as well, as they pose a significant burden on local security and resources. The pictures you are now watching, this is directly from Al-Hol. This is the tent where our Slovak lady was living for 4 years before she was repatriated back to Slovakia. So also Slovakia had one case connected to ISIS. Changes in detention facility conditions. The first is, as you probably heard, US aid cut. A major development was the abrupt suspension of American humanitarian assistance provided through US aid, which took effect in January. Around 70% of humanitarian support for the Al-Hol and Rosh camps is funded by US aid, making the agency crucial for maintaining essential services and stability within the camps. The suspension triggered widespread looting and theft among detainees, further deteriorating the security environment. After about a week, circa 2 weeks, temporary exemptions were introduced for selected US aid-funded programs, allowing for the partial resumption of humanitarian aid and security operations. These exemptions remain in effect. However, once they expire, the outlook will again become uncertain, raising concerns about potential destabilization. Regional developments, a positive trend influencing the operation of detention facilities has been the easing of direct tensions with Turkey. I think it was in March. The shift enabled the Syrian Democratic Forces, known as SDF, to redeploy certain units, allowing them to strengthen security and guarding operations in the camps and broader detention network. Regarding 3 case studies of German nationals, if you allow, I will not go into specifics regarding the 3 men we mentioned. These are detailed in our policy paper. So instead, I will continue to focus on the role of the Kurdish administration in relation to detention facilities, as well as the state of Syria following the regime change in December 2024. So the current role of Kurdish administration in management of these facilities, ANES and its security forces, known as SDF, continue to play a crucial, though evolving role in management of detention facilities. They maintain primary control over them, but due to shifts in the Syrian government and regional agreements, some authority and oversight of the detention system are being transferred to emerging state structures, and their role may continue to diminish, as we will see, I think, till the end of this year. Specific developments. At the beginning of 2025, ANES still managed dozens of detention centers and prisons. In addition to guarding duties, Kurdish-led administration coordinated with international humanitarian organization and managed essential services in the camps amid threats of the declining foreign funding and growing regional tensions. Since the March 2025, following an agreement between SDF leadership and the new Syrian government, began to transfer part of the detention administration under the control of the Syrian state. The plan also includes emptying the camps of Iraqi and Syrian nationals through repatriations and voluntary returns, mainly in cooperation with the UN and other partners. But like a small notes, we can see like how European states are not eager to repatriate their like women and men, especially men. So key dynamics, SDF and ANES remain responsible for the daily management, security and administration of camps, Al-Hol and Rosh, facing severe shortages of international assistance and an increasing risk of radicalization and violence within the camps. Under the March 2025 agreement, gradual transfer of detention facility management to the new Syrian state administration is expected, with implementation details still under negotiation. With the growing involvement of the UN and some countries, for example, Iraq, ANES is accelerating repatriation process, leading to a reduction in the population of Al-Hol and Rosh. The goal is to significantly empty the camps by the end of the 2025, which is like still with a big question mark. Last part from my side, geopolitical situation after the Assad regime's fall. So negotiations between Syrian government and Damascus and ANES are currently at kind of a deadlock with significant challenges and delays preventing any final agreement. Both parties have held multiple meetings through this year with notable attempts earlier in the year to implement a March 10th agreement that aimed to integrate ANES politically and militarily structures into the Syrian state. However, deep-rooted disagreements persist, particularly regarding the nature of decentralization, the status of SDF, and the question of sovereignty in the Kurdish majority areas. The key sticking points, Syrian government continues to reject decentralization frameworks that would grant broad or federal-like autonomy of the ANES instead of seeking a more limited local governance agreement under centralized state control. ANES leadership insists on retaining the SDF, SDF's integrity and operational autonomy, while Damascus proposes merging SDF units into the national military, into the national army. The current stalemate means integration is unlikely to proceed by the original December 2025 deadline. Both sides have agreed to exclude military confrontation as a solution and have committed to continue dialogue. Still, there are concerns that foreign actors, as we know, especially Turkey, are influencing Damascus to avoid formalizing Kurdish autonomy, further complicating the long process. So no final agreement is expected by the end of 2025. The most optimistic scenarios involve a phased integration process, possibly starting with the administrative arrangements in some regions, but the deadlock over not maybe militarily, but political autonomy remains unresolved. So in the absence of compromise, the risk of renewed instability and political fragmentation persists now in Northeastern Syria. So thank you very much.